Once you're ready to plant outside, once the weather is warm enough, I would look up on your extension site exactly the optimum temperatures for your different plants, what they like outside, because you don't want to bring them outside too early and shock them. But once you're ready to actually transplant your seedlings outside, you need to make sure that you harden them off. And that can be a process that you do over 2 to 3 days or up to a week. And what you want to do is slowly acclimate your plant to being outside in nature, because it's been coddled and babied under its grow lights and on its heat mat and everything in your house, and it needs to get used to the rough world outside. At first, you just want to do it for a few hours in the day so that they get used to the natural light, and then you can slowly increase the amount of time that they are outside each day. And you also want to make sure that you kind of rough up your plants, or you put a fan on them so they get used to being brushed up against in the outside world, because if they have never been touched at all, then their stems tend to be much less strong. And when you have wind or animals or people brushing by while they work in the garden, those stems will snap. A couple things I would say about transplanting. When you take your tray here and you get the seedlings out, or if you've transplanted up to a bigger pot, just sort of loosen those roots and soil in there by going like this, just so that you're not going to be pulling it out. You never want to yank on your plants, because that can disturb the roots. So I generally just rough the pot up a little bit to get that soil ball loose, and then just tip it upside down like this, and then you'll be able to transplant. Now with this, I would divide it, because it's in a larger pot. I would divide these by gently separating the roots. That is going to cause a little bit more transplantation shock, but you want your plants to have enough room to grow. When you plant, make sure that you water right away after planting them into the ground. That's going to help them adjust to being transplanted. A couple tips also: if you are using peat moss containers to grow your seeds in, or coco coir pots, that you want to make sure that you tear out the bottom of your pot when you're transplanting your seedling outside, so that your plant does not get root bound. That's very important. And then eventually you will probably have to remove these from the soil when you do your fall cleanup. You can just throw them in your compost, because they will not biodegrade into the soil by that point. If you are using a seeding tray that has the compressed peat pellets, which you just add water and they expand, very easy to use. You just place the seeds right in that little divot in the middle. These can be great. I really like using these. The only thing to keep in mind is that to hold this together, you can see here, there's a thin biodegradable film on the outside. And when you plant these out into the garden, peel that layer off. The instructions say that you don't need to, that it biodegrades. Peel it off. It will not biodegrade soon enough. And then you just want to watch your seedlings that you've transplanted into your garden. Make sure they get enough water, that they get enough protection. If we get a little bit of a cold spell that we weren't expecting, you may want to put some crop cover over it. You may want to put some plastic bell cloches over, just to increase the temperature. And then any repellents or anything that you need to keep the critters from eating them. A lot of times early in the summer, there's not much for them to eat, and you have these beautiful, very carefully raised, tender plants that you're putting out, which is just so attractive to them. If you have any more questions, you can always come into Gertens. We have our experts in the seeding area that can help you with any issues that you might have, any planning that you want to do. So come on down and we'll chat with you more.